That was President-elect Donald Trump last night after it was announced he will be the 45th President of the United States. Joining us now, best-selling author of the new book Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, big smile on his face, Newt Gingrich. There was a part of me today that really wanted to name names of those Republicans, those... All right, you're going to show yourself the bigger man. But I resisted the temptation to name names. All those people that sabotaged him, were not helpful, did everything to hurt him, and frankly, if they were successful, would be beating people like you and me over the head with a baseball bat and saying, oh, see, they were all wrong the whole time. But I didn't do it. Aren't you proud of me?
Right. I'm very proud of you. I think it's a sign of your newfound post-victory maturity.
All right. What do you...
I mean,
go ahead.
Let me just say this because we've known each other so long. You and I, along with millions of other Americans, are just beginning one of the great adventures of our lifetime. The 8 years of Donald Trump are going to be among the most extraordinary, creative, inventive, exciting periods in all of American political history, and will, I think, both move America back to being great again, dramatically drain the swamp in Washington, and move our systems into the 21st century to provide much, much better experiences for every American. Now, my only point is, compared to all that, the little whiny, sniveling, negative cowards who were never Trumpers are beneath our paying attention to them. Let them drift off into the ash bin of history while we go ahead and work with Donald Trump and with the House and Senate Republicans to create a dramatically new future.
Do you believe the old order Republican Party? I believe it's dead. And there's a new Republican Party, and hopefully one that's revitalized with bold colored differences, as President Reagan talked about. Do you worry about those old guard Republican establishment people eventually, as quickly as they can, turning on Trump and stopping progress that he's laid out and I think got a mandate for last night?
Look, their technique won't be to turn on him. I remember this both with Reagan in 81, 82, and then with us once we got a majority in 94. Their technique will be to say, oh, be reasonable. Don't push too hard. Don't force the issue. Find a compromise with Democrats. Maybe he shouldn't name one of the justices who are conservative who's on his list. Maybe he should find a nice, moderate, acceptable to the Democrats. Down that road is a disaster. And so we have to be aware that the danger is not that they're going to actively fight. The danger is that they're going to offer honeyed words of subversion that undermines the entire movement to make America great again, undermines the entire Trump movement, which is beginning to change America. But I have a hunch, just based on today's conversations, we were in Charleston, now we're talking to you from Atlanta, and as I talked to people all around the place, one, lots of people walked up and said congratulations, including people who were for Hillary. They said, look, you guys won a great campaign, and we just respect that you did it. Two, there is a spirit here of what if we could actually come together to get big things done. Now, that doesn't mean backing off on anything, but I would suggest to you, for example, that a really dramatic infrastructure program will get at least half the Democrats to sign up for it and be exactly in the job-creating direction that Donald Trump has talked about for a year and a half. So there are ways to build the next 6 months that it becomes a really pretty remarkable majority-building project that sets the stage for greater economic growth, greater take-home pay on terms that Trump has campaigned on.
I want to get to that, and let's go through the order of what you think the agenda ought to be and how he gets there. We'll have more with Speaker Gingrich right after this break. Also tonight, Monica. All right, they have anti-Trump protesters continuing to gather in the streets of several cities tonight across the country. Still with us, former Speaker of the House and Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich is with us. Should the old order, the people... If you remember back in the primaries, the 65% of Republican voters that said they felt betrayed by their own party, Does that old order, many of whom were reelected last night, do they deserve to hit the reset button and work with Trump? Or do you think that maybe there needs to be a restructuring?
No, I think, first of all, the proof will be in the pudding. And so far, we have great comments from Mitch McConnell, who is the most important single person in the opening 30 or 45 days, because every single cabinet officer has to be approved by the Senate. And if you don't have the active, energetic support of the Senate leader, you ain't getting nothing done, and you're not going to have a cabinet. So I think Trump has got to be close to McConnell. McConnell, of course, has an enormous interest in ending the war against coal. And there are things that Trump can do on the very first day by repealing a variety of executive orders that will make McConnell very happy. So I think that could be a great relationship. Today, as you know, because you and I were emailing about it, Speaker Paul Ryan, speaking in Janesville, his hometown, gave a great ringing endorsement of Trump and said, look, this guy won the nomination in a remarkable way. He won the presidency decisively. He is the leader of our country and the leader of our party, and therefore we all have an obligation to work with him. And you could not have asked for a more complete commitment to cooperate than you got from Paul Ryan. Now, that doesn't mean that guys who are as smart and as committed as McConnell and Ryan are going to roll over and do everything that, Donald Trump wants, nor, frankly, as conservatives, would we want the legislative branch to not exercise judgment and to not try to help improve legislation and improve ideas. But I'm very encouraged. There are going to be a handful of bitter enders who are saying, oh, I could never work with Trump. There are not going to be many of them, and they're all going to face a primary fight in 2018. There will also be a handful of people who are so pure that they can't be practical and work with Donald Trump. But I think it's a little hard coming out of this election to make the argument back home that you are more for change than Donald Trump, and therefore you can't work with him. So I think the Freedom Caucus types may, in fact, find themselves working with Trump and Ryan more than they thought they would.
Well, that probably
Trump
would be a good thing if
personifies change.
Yeah. If they're going to, open up energy independence and education back to the states, build a border wall, lower taxes, get the budget under control, those are all good things. If you were to advise Donald Trump, where does he go from here? How do you build this government? What's first on the agenda? Walk us through.
Well, I think he's got to do two or three things in parallel. He has to reach out and create a good working relationship with McConnell and Ryan, because so much of his opening 90 days depends on a team effort. He has to think through, how bold does he want to be? Is he going to bring in a team to manage the federal government, or is he going to bring in a team to change the federal government? Those are very different conditions and have very different teams. Some people are obvious. I mean, you know that Rudy Giuliani is going to have a major role. You know that Senator Sessions is going to have a major role. I mean, these are people so integral to the campaign that they are bound to be close to Trump in a major position.
Maybe
but
Newt
for every
Gingrich?
other job out there, well, maybe in a particular way. But what you really want to think about is, are you bringing somebody in to manage the bureaucracy of the Veterans Administration, or are you bringing somebody in to profoundly change it? Now, those are two very different recruiting jobs. And I think things like that. The other thing I would say is that Trump needs to pick a limited initial set of really big changes that he wants to come in with that defines the first 6 to 8 or 9 months of his presidency in domestic policy. One of them clearly is a big infrastructure bill. One of them has to be getting control of the southern border. You have a list, I know, that's very compelling and very powerful. And so all of which, by the way, came out of Trump's speeches. So it's not, it's not like we're suggesting new things. But I think that communicated to the team, so all the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans understand, look, here's the next 90 or 100 days, so they can get in the rhythm of doing that. That could really accelerate progress.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. You've been extraordinarily generous with your time, your insight. You put yourself out there on a limb, and I know you worked behind the scenes helping President-elect Trump, and I have a funny feeling you might be around him a lot. Just a guess on my part. I don't know. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be with you.